Hello and welcome to another episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby. We're here at the Excel at FinTech Connect, and it's my great pleasure to introduce you to Adam and Sharif. Adam, how you doing?
Good.
Sharif, good to see you.
Thank you.
So RWA, you're here today, you're speaking on the panels tomorrow. Lots of stuff happening. We've just been talking about it being a good event for you guys so far. Obviously, it's FinTech Connect. It also brings in Tokenized today, which is your side of the equation. Tell us a little bit about RWA and what you guys are getting involved in.
Yeah, so RWA.io, basically we're trying to map the entire industry, right? So there's hundreds, if not thousands of different asset issuers coming online. We essentially have a data platform to help you find those assets, but also from a project point of view, give the tools to be able to issue those tokens, right? So how do you bring these assets on chain? How do you find the right investors? That's what we're trying to solve.
How's that been going, Sharif? Tell us a little bit more about the origin story of that.
Yeah, it's been pretty explosive. I mean, we've been building an RWA since before it was called RWA. We used to be tokenized assets or security token offerings. This narrative has really been building over the last 18 months. We're tracking about 500 projects now in every corner of the world, tokenizing all different types of assets, from real estate to private credit, to equities, to bonds, to treasuries, etc. We feel like, over the next couple of years, we're going to reach a tipping point. We're starting to see now institutions come to the table, but they've been experimenting for the last couple of years anyway. And it's interesting now at events like this, we're sharing panels with some of the biggest institutions in the world, and tokenization and crypto is no longer a side event out in the corner right here on the main stages.
I think it's really, we did a documentary a couple of years ago talking about the era of convergence, TradFi and DeFi coming together. That feels like a little dated now, coming back, because the two are like inextricably intertwined, right? And as you say, look, there's so many different areas. You talked about the sort of speed of evolution over the last 18 months or so. In a world that is moving at the pace it is, how do you guys continue to sort of, have that strategy that sort of says this is what we're doing, this is where we're going, when everything's changing so quickly alongside it at the same sort of stage? You have to pivot a lot, iterate a lot. What's the story?
I don't know if I'd call it pivot, but you definitely have to be agile, right?
Yeah.
So when we got into this space maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago, we wouldn't have been thinking that we would have AI models that are, scanning all of our data, or we would have, interactive UIs that are getting built on the fly. And you have to stay agile for that technology, but at its core, it remains the same. People need data. They need to be able to perform their due diligence, to get access to these assets. So that's fundamentally the North Star, is building that hub, and I think we're on the way to doing it.
Sounds fantastic. And look, you're there on a panel tomorrow. You're moderating.
Yep.
You're on the panel. Perfect combo, perfect duo with it all. I'm always interested in sort of thinking about what people want to get out of that. So if you're sat there and you're thinking, we'll go to ask both of you the same question as a moderator, and as if you can say, look, people walk away from that event tomorrow, that panel tomorrow, thinking about something differently, what would you want them to be going away with? What are some of the core tenets that you want them to be thinking about after that session?
There's 2 sessions tomorrow. So the first one is looking at what makes this cycle different than the previous one.
Yeah,
so what I
great question.
kind of want people to do is look back and see how far we've come in some ways, but I do want to reinforce the point that it's still very early. So although people talk about adoption being here, it's not quite. So I do want to be as pragmatic, realistic as possible. But I'm kind of glad that I don't have to explain what tokenization is. So that's quite nice too. So that one I'm really looking forward to. Then we've got a panel session in the afternoon, which is about bridging TradFi and DeFi. What I want people to come away from that one is actually practical concepts, like where are these institutions actually looking to integrate with DeFi? Is that even possible? Is that even realistic? And also,
what's your take on that?
I think it's a hybrid, to be honest. I think it's maybe a little bit foolish to assume that these big players are going to come and integrate with all of these startups and all of these decentralized models. However, a lot of these DeFi concepts will, bleed into the traditional finance world. So I actually don't see a world where it's TradFi and DeFi. It's just Fi. There's going to be different concepts that are basically ingrained. 24-hour trading, access to liquidity, that type of thing is going to get there.
I love that sort of from TradFi and DeFi to just Fi is a definite takeaway from that. Love it. And Sharif, tell us a little about there. You've got the mic in front of you tomorrow. What do you want people to be hearing from you?
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously excited about this wave of tokenization. It's a technical innovation. It's an evolution To me, it's kind of as disruptive as online banking, where before you had to go into a branch to try and send a payment that took days. Those deposit accounts got connected when they got digitized. Then people were able to pay their bills, and just to have those lower cost, lower friction type experiences, and now we're seeing that with a range of other digital assets. It won't all be at once, but what we will see is different opportunities for people to invest, to trade, even to take positions on specific outcomes in the asset space. And I do believe that there will be a hybrid within these larger institutions. The depth of stablecoins now are super deep, super liquid. The easiest way to move, $100 million is to use a stablecoin now rather than through the traditional networks. And the big institutions are taking note of that. The likes of SAP are taking note of that with their digital currency wallet into ERP systems. So expect, it's kind of suddenly and then or gradually and then suddenly. I think that's kind of the tipping point that we're at.
Yeah, I think there was, when we first started talking about that sort of that merger, that convergence of TradFi and DeFi, it was moving at pace. Then we had everything with FTX, and we talked about restoring trust in digital assets, and it feels like that trust is coming with knowledge and information and data. And if I'm not mistaken, you guys sitting right in the middle of all of that sort of world builds the trust in the area, which then says, look, this is where we take us the next frontier, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of the central pivotal point of the platform that we have is the project are coming on and they're getting verified. They're putting an entry in their top level DNS to say they are who they say they are, and the assets that they issue is coming from this entity. So if there's something wrong, that's who you're going to call. And it's those layers of trust that's needed for anybody to take a look at an asset and go, okay, I want to allocate some capital to this, but who's behind it? And we've really had that at a foundational level, building up those trust layers from the ground up. Who's issuing it? Who's behind it? Who's the secondary market? What happens? Who do you call when it goes wrong?
Yeah, that trust being the last frontier of pure adoption, to me, is that bit which we've really got to work on in the industry and keep on pushing over the line. So let's finish with a little bit about RWA and the business itself. It sounds like it's been a pretty busy couple of years for you, a busy day alongside this as well. What can we expect in 2026?
Yeah, I think I touched on it a little bit when it comes to AI intelligence. We want to basically embed that into the data, because the big problem that exists at the moment is that fragmentation. There's hundreds of projects, hundreds of different asset classes. How do you disseminate that information and basically get the right answers? And it's funny, when we're talking about trust, the old saying is don't trust, verify in crypto. Right? But we
trust but verify is the cold war, isn't it?
We need to have some trust, right? It's in the world, real world assets, and we have to have real projects, real issuers. What I hope is that by plugging in some of this intelligence layers, we can start to really tell who are the real issuers and who aren't.
And where does it go? What's the big plan for the business?
Basically every asset available to everybody, right? So a ubiquitous layer that somebody issues an asset, that somebody with a mobile phone in a developing country can have asset exposure to that asset class. They can do their own due diligence, or with their own AI helpers and models, build their own portfolios and manage it. The wave and depth of different choices of assets that is coming is like nothing we've ever seen. In the US, there's several thousand public companies. There's 40 million private companies in the US. All with equity, all with capital, all trying to make things. And that's just one country. At the grassroots level, entrepreneurs around the world are looking for ways to, gather capital, take things to market, and share in that. And I think this RWA ecosystem is building around that premise.
And you guys are Dublin-based. It sounds like a very global footprint, right?
Yeah, so Dublin-based, global ambition.
There we go. That's a great way to finish it all off. Listen, lovely to meet you both. Thank you very much. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you soon on the next episode of FinTech Focus TV. Thanks a lot.